You have fish in here, and they're not all warrior bass. So what we have here is a very small juvenile Alabama bass, and they are native here, and they do share water with these fish. And these are the ones that hybridize with the warrior bass in a lot of these streams, and there are hybrids in this stream as well, although there's a big proportion of warrior bass in here that are pure, which is unlike a lot of the Black Warrior Basin. But this is an Alabama bass. You see obviously the obvious broad stripe down the side. That's totally different than any red-eye bass, including warrior bass. They're one of the ways you can tell them apart from punctulatus, from spotted bass, the one that's found in the Ohio and Mississippi basin, is the stripe on the tail. It's usually a series of blotches in Alabama bass and more of a coalesced stripe in spotted bass. Those kind of markings, characters, often do not work in small fish like this. So you can see this one has pretty much a stripe, which would suggest that it would be a punctulatus, but it's not. Other things I've noticed about Alabama bass compared to the spotted bass itself, one is that these fish are a lot more narrow. They're a lot thinner at the same size as a spotted bass. They're a little more of a like an olive kind of color, almost like bronzy. I don't know if bronze is the right word, but they're not as green as actual spotted bass are, and so that's another way to tell them apart. In this case, we're in the Black Warrior Basin. These are native, and the punctulatus are not here as far as we know, and if they were here, they wouldn't be native. So these little guys are here. They're probably some of the bass that I'm seeing. If you get, the water is so clear that if you get a good look at it, just because of the stripe, you'd be able to tell these apart from the warriors. But at any rate, they bite too. Here's another Alabama bass coming out of this little small stream. Wouldn't believe where I caught him, a hole about a foot deep. Low water, man. Anything over 6 inches constitutes a place a fish could be. But this one has a little more of the typical patterns that I was talking about with the small fish. Notice that the line is still kind of a bunch of connected blotches all the way down to the base of the tail. That's typical for an Alabama bass compared to a spotted bass found farther north in the Ohio and Mississippi drainages, where it coalesces into a stripe near the tail. That's not 100%. I mean, these fish are relatively closely related, so their markings do overlap. And we've already talked enough in other videos about how much markings vary. But this is a typical Alabama bass. This fish here is probably about 2 years old. If it was a red eye, or a warrior bass, it would probably be more like 5. We always talk about the tooth patch. Oh, you can feel it. You can also see it. You see that oval discoloration on the tongue, right past my thumb there. That's the tooth patch. Notice this fish has a red eye. Doesn't mean it's a red eye bass. All the basses generally, maybe with the exception of largemouths, can have reddish eyes at times. Particularly seems like during stress, which means when you catch them when you catch them on a fishing rod. But yeah, this is the pool I just caught that fish out of, right behind that rock with the grass growing on top, and it is literally about 14 inches deep behind there, as opposed to 3 in front of there. And so that's where the fish was, and there was more than one in there because I lost another one earlier.